In this video, we are taking a closer look at the movie Signer. We will break down the storyline, give a clear summary of the plot, and explore the main cast and the character. We will also examine the film production background and take a look at its box office performance. To wrap things up, we will share our thoughts and personal reaction to the movie. Let's begin. When we begin talking about Signer, it's important to slow down for a moment and understand why this film deserves thoughtful discussion. This is just another crime drama or psychological thriller added to the yearly list of releases. It is a film that positions itself at the intersection of genre storytelling and moral reflection, and that alone make it worth exploring carefully. First, let's consider the genre. Liners blends crime drama with psychological tension. Now, crime dramas often focus on even who committed the crime, how it happened, and what consequence follow. Psychological thriller, on the other hand, dig deeper into the mind. They explore guilt, fear, obsession, and moral conflict. What makes Signer interesting is how it balances these two approaches. It is not only about what the characters do, it is about what those actions do to their soul. The tension comes not just from external danger but from internal struggle. That kind of storytelling invites discussion because it asks the audience to reflect on human weakness and redemption. Next, we must talk about the director, Ryan Coogler. Coogler has built a reputation for crafting emotionally grounded stories within powerful genre framework. From Fruitvale Station to Black Panther and Creed, he consistently brings depth and humanity to his character. He does not simply present heroes and villains, he presents people shaped by their environment, by systemic pressure, and by personal choices. The directorial signature is important when discussing Signer. If Kogler is at the helm, we can expect layered performances, social undertones, and an emotional core that goes beyond surface level suspense. Kogler's strength has always been his ability to blend intimate storytelling with larger thematic question. Even in blockbuster setting, he focuses on relationship, family dynamic, and moral responsibility. So when he approaches a darker, morally complex story like Signer, it becomes more than a thrill. It becomes a character study wrapped in tension. That directorial lens alone make the film worth discussing in depth. Now let's shift to the production style because the style shape experience. Signer appears to embrace a grounded atmospheric approach instead of flashy editing overly dramatic action sequences. The film seem to rely on mood, dry, dark lighting, careful framing, and emotionally charged close-up likely dominate the visual language. That this kind of production style slow the audience down. It focuses viewer to sit with discomfort. Silence may be used as effectively as dialogue. Music may build unease rather than excitement. In today's fast-paced cinematic landscape where many films prioritize spectacle and quick pacing, this slower, more driven production approach stand out. It signals confidence. It suggests that the filmmaker trusts the audience to engage intellectually and emotionally rather than simply react to explosion or shock value. That restraint can make a film more powerful. Furthermore, production style in a psychological crime drama is not just aesthetic, it's thematic. Shadows can symbolize hidden truth, tight framing can represent emotional entrapment, muted color can reflect moral decay. When style aligned with theme, the film becomes cohesive and meaningful. That's the kind of craftsmanship critics and the film students love to analyze. So why is Signers worth discussing? Because it brings together a compiling genre blend, a director known for emotional and thematic depth, and a production style that prioritizes atmosphere over spectacle. It promises tension but also interception. It offers crime but also consequence. And when a film dares to explore the gray area of human behavior instead of offering easy answers, it deserves thoughtful conservation. Before we even dive into plot details, those elements alone give us plenty to talk about. Signer was produced with an estimated budget in the range of $90 million to $100 million, placing it firmly within the mid to upper tier of studio back's original film. This level of investment is significant, particularly for a project that is not the part of an established franchise. In today's film industry, where large-scale superhero or action franchise often exceed $200 million in production cost, a budget just under $100 million signal both confidence and calculated risk from the studio. It suggests that the filmmaker were giving substantial creative resources while still operating within a framework designed to manage financial exposure. A notable portion of the budget would have been allocated to above the line costs, including salaries for key creative talent. With Ryan Coogler directing, the studio was working within a filmmaker who has a strong commercial and critical track record. Directors of this statue often command sizable fees and may also negotiate back-end participation. Lead actors, particularly established stars with proven box office appeal, can also count for a meaningful share of the production spending. In a film of this scale, it is reasonable to estimate that a substantial percentage of the total budget went towards securing top tier talent and ensuring high production value performances. Below the line expenses likely made up the majority of the remaining costs. These include location shooting, set construction, costume design, cinematography, and post production work. Because the film carries a period setting, recreating historical environment would have required detailed art direction and specialized design team. Period production are typically more expensive than contemporary set stories due to the need for custom built set, historically accurate wardrobe, and controlled shooting environment that avoid a modern visual element. If the production rely on practical sets rather than extensive digital backdrop construction, and location adaptation cost would have increased accordingly. Technical choices also influence budget allocation. If large format film stock or specialized camera system were used, equipment rental and processing cost would exceed those of standard digital production. Additionally, even films that are not effect heavy often require visual effect for environmental adjustment, crowd extension, and subtitle enhancement. These post-production elements, while not always visible to audience, contribute meaningfully to overall expenditure. When compared to the similar genre film, the budget of Signers stand out as ambitious but not excessive. For example, high-end original thrill or originally driven genre films such as Nope were produced for somewhat lower budgets, separately in 60 to 70 million dollar range. Meanwhile, prestige horror film from smaller studio often cost under $20 million, reflecting tighter production model and reduced star salary. On the opposite end of the spectrum, franchise entries like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 can exceed $200 million due to large-scale action sequence, international location, and heavy visual effect usage. In this context, Signer occupy a middle ground, more expensive than typical standalone thrill, yet significantly more restrained than blockbuster tentpole. This budget positioning reflecting broader industry trends. Studios have become cautious about mid-budget films as streaming competition and unpredictable theatrical performance create financial uncertainty. Allocating close to $100 million to an originally property suggests confidence in the director's brand value and the project marketability. It also indicates expectation of the strong domestic and international return to justify the investment. Overall, the production budget of Signer can be understood as strategically calibrated. It provides sufficient resource for high production standards, star talent, and detailed world building, while remaining below the threshold of high risk blockbuster spending. From a financial analysis perspective, the film represents a calculated commitment to a quality filmmaking within a controlled commercial framework. Signer operates within a layered blend of crime drama and psychological thriller, but its genre identity is less about formula and more about atmosphere. Rather than relying on fast-paced action or shocking twist alone, the film leans into mood, tension, and emotional weight. It feels designed to linear rather than rush, to unsettle rather than simply entertain. At its core, the film embraces the structure of a crime drama. There are moral transgression, consequence, and character navigating ethically dangerous territory. However, it does not treat crime as spectral. Instead of focusing heavily on procedural element or large scale action, the narrative draw attention inward. This is where the psychological thriller aspect becomes dominant. The tension comes from what the characters are feeling, hiding, and feeding. The true suspense often lies not in whether violence will erupt, but in whether truth will surface. The overall mood is dark and introspective from the very beginning. The atmosphere suggests heaviness, both emotional and visual. The lightning design appear intentionally subtle, favoring shadow, muted tone, and control highlight. Darkness is not simply aesthetic, it reinforces a thematic focus on guilt, secrecy, and moral ambiguity. Scenes are likely framed tightly, using close up to capture subtitle, facial expression, and internal conflict. This stylistic choice draw viewer closer to the character's psychological state. Pacing play a critical role in shaping the film's mood. Rather than accelerating through plot point, the storytelling unfolds deliberately. Moments are allowed to breathe. The conservation are given space. Silence may stretch longer than expected. This slower pacing creates discomfort in a productive way. The audience is encouraged to sit with tension rather than escape it. In a cinematic landscape where rapid editing and high energy sequence dominate, this restrained feeling tension. It suggests confidence in performance and writing. The tone of the film is serious and reflects. There is a little sense of lightness or comic relief. Even quieter scenes likely carry an undercurrent of unease. The emotional register remains steady, grounded in realism rather than melodrama. This tonal consistency helps maintain immersion. The story does not fluctuate wildly between extreme. Instead, it builds pressure gradually as seekers unravel. The intensity increase not through value but through emotional stakes. Stylistically, the influence of the director Ryan Coogler can be felt in the emphasis on character-driven storytelling. Coogler is known for combining genre framework with human depth, as seen in films like Fruitvale Station and Credence Signer. That sensibility likely manifests through grounded performance and can emphasize on relationship. Even in moment of conflict, the emotional stake became remain personal. The camera often seemed interested in faces rather than spectre. Sound design and music contribute significantly to the mood. Instead of overpowering or orchestration, the score likely built tension. Subtlety, low frequency tones, restrained melodies, or rhythmic pulses can create unease without overwhelming dialogue. Silence may be used strategically, amplifying the weight of certain scale. When music does rise, it likely underscore emotional turning point rather than dictating them. The atmosphere overall feel immersive and cohesive. Production design, costume choice, and color grading work together to maintain a consistent visual identity. Nothing appear overly polished or glossy. Instead, the aesthetic lean toward grounding realism with stylized undertone. This balance allows the film to feel authentic while still maintaining a cinematic presence. Ultimately, the genre and the mood of Signer are defined by restraint and psychological intensity. It is not a film driven by explosive action or sensationalism. It is shaped by quiet tension, moral uncertainty, and emotional gravity. The atmosphere is heavy, the pacing deliberate, and the tone unwaveringly serious. These stylistic choices create a viewing experience that is immersive and thought provoking, encouraging reflection long after the credit roll. Before audience step into Signer, expectations are already forming. These expectations are shaped by viewers' demographic, the reputation of the creative team, the film's genre identity, and the broader cinematic climate. A movie like this one does not arrive in a vacuum. It carries with its assumption, hope, and even skepticism depending on who is preparing to watch it. From a viewer's demographic standpoint, the film most naturally attract adult audience rather than younger viewers. The tone, subject matter, and psychological intensity suggest a target demographic of viewer in their mid-20s and older. Mature audience often gravitate toward character-driven dramas and morally complex narrative, and the Signer appear designed for that space. College students, film enthusiasts, and the adult who appreciate serious storytelling are likely to approach the film expecting layered performance and meaningful theme. Younger viewers who prefer fast-paced spectacle may anticipate something more intense or action-heavy, but they might quickly realize this film lean toward interception rather than adrenaline. There is also an important demographic factor tied to that through the director. Ryan Coogler has built a diverse and loyal audience over the years. Viewers who admire his work on Black Panther may expect strong visual storytelling and emotional character are those who connected deeply with Fruitvale Station may anticipate ground realism and social underground. Meanwhile, fans of Creed may expect powerful performance centered around personal struggle and identity. Because Cogler has demonstrated range across genres, audience might approach Signer with confidence that the film will combine entertainment with substances. In terms of anticipated theme, viewers are likely expecting exploration of guilt, redemption, morality, and consequence. The title itself signs immediately signal ethical conflict. Audience may predict a story that examines flawed individuals navigating difficult choices. There is also an expectation of emotional weight rather than light escapism. Viewers may anticipate questions about accountability and the complexity of right and wrong. In today's social climate, the film dealing with moral ambiguity often resonates strongly, and audience may expect Signer to reflect contemporary concern through its narrative line. Additionally, there is an expectation of psychological tension because the film aligns with the crime, drama, and thriller space. Many viewers will anticipate suspense, however, genre savvy audience may expect this suspense to be internal rather than explosive. Instead of car chase or large scale action, they may anticipate slow building pressure, uncomfortable confrontation, and socially emotionally intense sense. This expectation is not necessarily spectral but immersion. For genre, fan expectations differ depending on their preferences. Fans of psychological thrill may expect careful pacing, atmospheric viewer, and layered character. They will likely look for subtitle cue, moral and complex motivation. Crime drama enthusiasts may expect a narrative centered around wrongdoing and its aftermath, possibly involving investigation or confrontation. However, viewers are accustomed to procedural crime stories or action driven thrill. They may adjust their expectation once they realize the film prioritizes mood and character over mechanics. There is also an expectation of strong performance given Cogler's history of extracting emotionally resonant acting from his cast. Audience may anticipate intense character portrayal. They may expect scenes that rely heavily on dialogue and emotional expression rather than grand set pieces. Performance driven storytelling becomes a key anticipation point for sign files. Marketing and industry positioning further shape expectation with a mid to high production budget and a major studio banking. Audience may expect high production values, detailed set design, polished cinematography, and immersion sound design. However, they may not expect blockbuster scale visual effect. Instead, the assumption is quality craftsmanship with a grounded framework. Finally, there is an overarching expectation of seriousness. Viewers likely approach signers prepared for a film that demands attention. It does not appear to promise easy entertainment or comedic relief. The expectation is that the experience will be thoughtful, possibly heavy and emotionally engaging. In summary, audience expectation before watching Signers are shaped by demographic, genre alignment, and the reputation of its director. Adult viewer anticipate depth and moral complexity. Genre fan expect psychological tension and atmospheric storytelling. Supporters of Ryan Coogler anticipate emotional authenticity and thematic resonance. Whether those expectations are met ultimately define the film reception, but before the first scene even begins, the tone has already been set in the mind of its audience. Signer is already designed with a specific type of viewers in mind. It is not structured as broad family friendly entertainment, nor is it aimed at casual audience looking for light escapism. Instead, the film appears crafted for mature viewers who appreciate layered storytelling, psychological depth, and emotionally serious theme. When examining its target audience, three primary factors stand out: age group, interest, and genre preferences. In terms of age group, the movie is best suited for adults, particularly view age 25 and above. The tone, pacing, and moral complexity suggest that it is intended for audience comfortable engaging with no character conflict and ethical ambiguity. Younger teenagers who prefer fast-paced action, fantasy, adventure, or comedy-driven narrative may find the deliberate pacing less accessible. By contrast, adult viewers often seek films that provoke thought and reflection. The themes of guilt, consequence, and redemption resonate more strongly with individuals who have a broader life perspective and an appreciation for subtitle storytelling. The film likely holds particular appeal for people in their late 20s through 40s, as this demographic often balance entertainment with intellectual engagement. Many in this age group are drawn to cinema that examine flawed human behavior rather than presenting simple heroes and villains. Because this film appeared to lean into moral gray area, its emotional weight aligned naturally with adult sensibilities. It is the kind of the film that invite discussion after viewing, making it attractive to audience who enjoy analyzing character, motivation, and thematic undertones. When considering interest, the target viewer is someone who values character driven narrative. These viewers are typically drawn to stories where emotional arcs are central. They enjoy exploring psychological tension and interpersonal conflict. Rather than seeking spectacle alone, they appreciate subtitle performance, meaningful dialogue, and atmospheric world building. Film enthusiastic students of cinema and viewers who follow director closely are likely the part of this target group. There is also a strong appeal for audience interested in socially conscious storytelling. Director Ryan Coogler is known for integrating human and social theme into genre framework, as seen in Fruitvale Station and Greed. Viewers who admire his ability to combine personal struggle with broader cultural commentary may approach Siner expecting a similarly thoughtful narrative. Therefore, individuals interested in films that reflect real world moral dilemmas, identity question, and emotional consequence are the part of the intended audience. In terms of gender preferences, this film is made for fans of psychological thriller and crime drama that emphasize mood over spectacle. People who appreciate tension built through atmosphere rather than explosive action are likely to connect most deeply. Fan of slow burn storytelling where suspense accumulates gradually will find the pacing more satisfying than those who prefer rapid plot progression. The movie is not primarily designed for audience seeking large scale visual effect or high adrenaline sequence. Instead, it caters to those who enjoy intimate storytelling and morally complex narrative. Genre fan who admire like No Country for Old Men or other interceptive crime drama may feel aligned with its tone. The viewers often value ambiguity and interpretative depth over clear cut resolution. Additionally, the film may resonate strongly with viewers who follow contemporary or uterus. Coogler's reputation draw audience who trust his storytelling in instant. For these viewers, the director name itself signals quality and emotional authenticity. They are prepared for serious subject matter and stylistic restraint. Overall, the target audience for this film consists of mature, reflective viewers who prefer thought-provoking cinema. The film appeals to adults interested in psychological intensity, character complexity, and moral exploration. It is particularly well suited for those who enjoy crime drama that prioritize emotional depth over spectacle. While it may not cater to young audience seeking light entertainment, it offers substantial engagement for viewers who appreciates story building, tension, and thematic richness. In this sense, Siner's position itself is a film made for attentive, analytic, and emotionally mature audience. It promises an emotional experience that is heavy, immersive, and psychologically layered rather than offering excitement rooted in spectral escapism. The film appears designed to guide viewers through a slow, intense confrontation with moral conflict and personal consequence. The emotional journey is shaped by mood, reinforced by theme, and ultimately directed toward a lasting impact on the audience. For the From the perspective of mood, the film is establishing a somber and introspective atmosphere. The tone is not chaotic or loud, instead, it feels controlled and deliberate. Darkness, both literal and emotional, play a significant role. The visual style likely emphasizes shadow and muted color palette, reinforcing a sense of internal struggle. The visual restraint create an atmosphere where tension simmers rather than explode. The mood invite viewers to lean forward to observe closely and to feel the weight of each scene. Silence may be used strategically, allowing movement to linger and emotionally discomfort to settle in. This kind of mood shape expectation of seriousness. Viewers are not encouraged to relax passively, they are invited to engage actively. The emotional texture feel dense. Scenes may carry undercurrent of regret, suspension, or unspoken fear. Rather than sharp emotional spike, the experience builds gradually, tightening like a slow coil. This sustained intensity can create a deeply immersive viewing experience, one that feels personal and immediate. The film themes further define its emotional direction. At its core, signers appeal to explore guilt, redemption, and moral ambiguity and the consequence of hidden truth. These themes inherently carry emotional weight. Stories centered on guilt often provoke reflection and empathy as audience recognize human perfection within the character. Redemption arc, when handled with nose, can evoke both hope and melancholy. The tension between wrongdoing and forgiveness form a central emotional thread. Because the film does not seem to rely on clear cut moral binaries, viewers may experience a complex mix of empathy and discomfort. Character who make flaw decision might still inspire compassion. This ambiguity encourages introspection. Audience may find themselves questioning their own definition of right and wrong. Emotional engagement become more reflective than reactive. Director Ryan Coogler is known for grounding genre stories in human vulnerability as demonstrated in Fruitvale Station and Creed. If that sensibility carries into Signer, the emotional experience likely centered on character depth. Performance may drive the film's most powerful moment. Close up short, restrained dialogue, and subtitle expression can create intimacy between viewers and character. This intimacy fosters emotional investment, making conflict feel personal rather than distant. In terms of intended impact, the film seems designed to linger after the credit roll. It does not promise simple catharsis or triumphant resolution. Instead, it likely aims to leave viewers reflecting on the cost of moral failure and complexity of forgiveness. The emotional takeaway may be contemplative rather than uplifting. This does not necessarily mean the experience is bleak, rather, it is thoughtful. The film may offer moments of grace or understanding, but they are earned through struggle. There is also an element of tension driven empathy. As secrets surface and conflict intensify, viewers may feel anxiety alongside the character. This shared emotional state strengthen immersion. This suspense is not just about external danger but about emotional revelations. When truth emerges, the impact is felt on psychological level. Ultimately, the film promises an emotional experience rooted in seriousness and reflection. The mood is restrained yet intense. The themes are morally complex and deeply human. The intended impact is not fleeting excitement but lasting contemplation. It invites audience to confront uncomfortable questions about accountability and redemption. For viewers willing to engage fully, the films offer an experience that is immersive, challenging, and emotionally resonant long after the final scene fades. Signer is built around a core idea that moves beyond plot mechanics and into moral philosophy. At its heart, the film appears to explore the tension between wrongdoing and accountability, between human perfection and the longing for redemption. Rather than focusing slowly on external events, the story comes to revolve around the invisible weight people carry, the consequence of choices that cannot be undone. In abstract terms, the film's central theme is morally knocking. It suggests that action do not disappear once committed; they linger in memory, in relationship, and identity. The narrative seems to ask a fundamental question: can a person fully escape their past, or must they confront it in order to move forward. The thematic foundation carries a story that feels less about crime itself and more about the psychological and emotional aftermath of the wrong time. This title alone signals universality. It implies polarity. It does not isolate guilt within one individual, it frames imperfection as collective. This suggests that the film's message is not accusatory but reflective. It presents in not an extraordinary act committed by the villain but as a human condition shaped by circumstances, fear, pride, or desperation. The abstraction here lies in the idea that everyone operates with a moral gray space. The story concept therefore becomes a study of humanity rather than a study of crime. Another central theme is duality, the coexistence of good and flawed impulses within the same individual. The narrative likely explore how people justify their action to themselves and how they rationalize harm and how they cope with regret. This internal dialogue forms the emotional backbone of the story rather than framing morality in black and white. The film appeared to emphasize complexity. The message is not that people are purely good or evil, but they are capable of both, often simultaneously. Redemption emerges as a companion theme. However, redemption in this context may be simplistic or granted. It may require sacrifice, confrontation, or painful honesty. The story concept likely resists easy absolution. Instead, it examines whether forgiveness, both self forgiveness and forgiveness from others, can truly erase damage or whether it merely transform into something bearable. This creates a narrative tension between hope and consequence. Another abstract layer involves the idea of truth. Hidden truths, suppressed memories, and concealed motives often function symbolically in psychological dramas. This film truth likely operate as both threat and liberation. To reveal the truth may mean destroying stability, yet to hide it mean living in perpetual fear. The story's core idea therefore circles around the cost of silence. It asks whether protection of oneself justifies deception and whether honesty always leads to healing. There is also an existential dimension to the film's theme. By focusing on guilt and accountability, the story implicitly questions identity. Are individuals defined by their worst action, or they can redefine themselves through growth? The tension between fixed identity and transformation form a philosophical undercurrent. The message seems to suggest that identity is shaped through confrontation with one past rather than Daniel of it. Director Ryan Coogler has previously demonstrated an interest in stories with personal and struggle interest intersect with larger moral or societal framework as seen in Fruitvale Station and Creed. If that sensibility informs Signer, the film core idea likely extend beyond individual guilt to reflect communal or generational consequence. In this sense, sin is not merely personally triple outward. The story concept may subtly suggest that choice made by one person affect many other, creating a chain of emotional and ethical repercussions. Ultimately, the core idea of this film can be understood as an exploration of moral gravity. Every action carries weight, every decision shapes the future. The narrative does not seek to provide a definitive moral answer but to immerse the audience in the complexity of the human fallibility. It presents a world where redemption is possible but not effortless, where truth is painful but necessary, and where identity is forged through renocking. In abstract language, the film becomes less about event and more about state of being, guilt, fear, hope, and accountability. Its message seems to be that confronting one's shadow is the only path toward light. Rather than condemning its character, the story appeared to hold a mirror to the audience, inviting reflection on personal responsibility and the universal struggle between conscience and desire. Signer appear to revolve around a central conflict that is less about physical confrontation and more about moral and psychological conclusion. At its core, the tension emerges from the struggle between accountability and self-preservation. The characters are not simply facing external obstacles; they are navigating internal fracture choices that force them to weigh truth against protection, loyalty against integrity, and survival against consequence. The primary moral dilemma seems to center on whether the individual should comfort their wrongdoing or attempt to bury it. This is not presenting as an easy decision. Confession and honesty promises clarity but threaten loss of status, relationship, stability, or identity. Silence and concealment, on the other hand, often temporary safety but deepen internal turmoil. The external conflict is therefore sustained by this duality, the desire to protect oneself versus the need to reconcile with one's moral compass. The internal struggle creates layered tension. The conflict is not loud or explosive, it is persistent and psychological. Character may appear composed on the surface, yet beneath that composure lies in anxiety. Every interaction carries the weight of what is known beneath what is known and what is withheld. Suspense grows from uncertainty about who knows the truth, who suspected, and who is prepared to act upon it. The moral dilemma become a quiet pressure that tightens with time. Another aspect of the central conflict involves loyalty. Individuals often find themselves torn between protecting others and upholding principle. Loyalty can be noble, but it can also become a justification for ethical compromise. The film seemed to question whether standing by oneself at all cost is an act of love or betrayal of justice. This tension between relational bond and moral responsibility create emotional friction. The conflict is not only about what is right but about who one is willing to disappoint in the process of doing what is right. Identity also play a crucial role in the central challenge. When characters are confronting with their flaws, they must decide how they see themselves. Are they defined by a single action or are they capable of transformation? The tension arises when self-image clashes with reality. If someone views themselves as honorable, and how do they reconcile behavior that contradict that belief? The conflict become existential as much as ethical. It is about preserving a sense of self while acknowledging imperfection. The film's atmosphere likely intensify this tension through restraint. Director Ryan Coogler has previously demonstrating a capacity to frame conflict through character relationship and emotional loss as seen in Fruitvale Station and Greed. In Sinner, that approach likely manifests as close, intimate moment where silence speaks louder than dialogue. The central conflict does not rely on specter; it relies on moral discomfort. The challenges faced by the character are not purely external threat, but internal knocking, fear of exposure, fear of rejection, and fear of irreversible consequence create an environment of constant unease. Each scene compound the tension. Even in moments of calm, responsibility of revelations linger. This sustained uncertainty keep the conflict alive. Another dimension of the central struggle is the cost of truth. Truth can liberate, but it can also destabilize. The dilemma lies in determining whether the harm caused by revelation is justified by the clarity it provides. This moral calculus has no universal answer. The film seems to emphasize that every choice carries consequence and every consequence reshape relationship. The tension arises from knowing that any path forward demands sacrifice. Ultimately, the central conflict in this film can be understood as a battle between consequence and comfort. Consequence demand acknowledgement and repair, comfort demand awareness and protection. The story does not appear to offer simplistic solution. Instead, it sustains tension by allowing the moral dilemma to unfold gradually. The characters are trapped not by circumstances alone but by their own decision and fear. In abstract terms, the conflict is about the weight of imperfection. It explores how individuals respond when confronted with the gap between who they are and who they wish to be. The tension persists because resolution required vulnerability. The moral dilemma is universal, whether to confront the shadow within or continue living in its protection. This film explores a range of layered themes that extend beyond surface level storytelling. At its foundation, the film appears to examine moral responsibility, identity, consequence, and the complexity of redemption. These themes are woven together through ethical question, emotional arc, and broader cultural reflection, creating a narrative that feels both intimate and socially aware. One of the most prominent themes is moral accountability. The stories seem to revolve around the idea that the actions, especially harmful ones, do not exist in isolation. They ripple outward, affecting relationship, communities, and self-perception. This raises ethical questions such as, can someone truly move forward without confronting to the harm they can cause? Is silence a form of self-preservation, or is it an extension of wrongdoing? The film appear to avoid simple moral binary. Instead, it situates its character in gray areas, forcing them to navigate choices that lack clean solutions. This ambiguity invites viewers to reflect on their own standard of right and wrong. Closely tied to accountability is the theme of redemption. Redemption in this context does not seem automatic or sentimental. It really requires recognition, sacrifice, and emotional vulnerability. The film appeared to question where redemption is something learned through action or something granting through forgiveness. It may also explore where redemption is ever complete, or if the memory of past mistake continue to shape identity indefinitely. These questions form the backbone of the character emotional arc. The emotional journey in this film likely center on guilt and transformation. Guilt operates as both burden and catalyst. It can paralyze individuals, trapping them in cycles of fear and denial. Yet it can also motivate change. The tension between these outcomes defines the character. Internal struggle, emotional arc may move from denial to acknowledgement, from defensiveness to honesty, and from isolation to connection. The progression is not linear. Setback and resistance likely complicate the journey. This complexity makes the emotional experience feel authentic rather than formulaic. Another key theme is identity. The film appears to explore whether individuals are defined by their worst action or by their capacity to beyond them. Identity becomes unstable when confronting with moral failure. Character must be reconcile who they believe they are with they have done. This internal conflict creates emotional depth and philosophical resonance. It raises the question, is identity fixed, or can it be reshaped through accountability and change? Culturally, the film may touch on theme of community and collective consequence. Director Ryan Coogler had previously demonstrated an interest in embedding personal stories within broader social framework, as seen in Fruitvale Station and Black Panther. In this film, cultural topics may emerge subtly through the depiction of relationships, social pressure, and systemic influence. The story might suggest that individual wrongdoing is shaped by environment, by economic strain, social expectation, or generational trauma. This does not excuse harmful behavior, but it complicates it. The theme of truth versus protection is also central. The narrative appears to question whether revealing the truth always leads to healing. Sometimes truth disrupts stability and fractures trust. The ethical dilemma becomes whether short-term peace justifies long-term concealment. This theme resonates culturally in a time where transparency and accountability are highly debated social values. The film may reflect contemporary conversation about responsibility, both personal and institutional. Emotional isolation is another recurring idea. Characters burdened by secrecy often withdrawing, creating distance between themselves and others. This isolation intensifies tension and highlights the human need for connection. When individuals choose honesty, they risk rejection but open the possibility for reconciliation. The emotional arc that balances fear with hope. Ultimately, the theme explored in this film courage around a central message that confronting one's flaw is painful but necessary for growth. The film does not seem interested in moral condemnation. Rather, it explores the fragile space between fairy and redemption through ethical question, layer, emotional arc, and culturally relevant undertone. It presents a story that invites reflection on the complexity of being human. By engaging with guilt, accountability, identity, and the cost of truth, Signer position itself as more than a crime drama. It becomes a meditation on consequence and conscience. The theme do not demand simple answer. Instead, they encourage viewers to sit with discomfort, to question assumption, and to consider how individuals and communities navigate the aftermath of imperfection. It creates emotional connection with viewers not through spectacle or shock but through intimacy, moral tension, and atmosphere. The story appears designed to draw audience inward, encouraging them to experience conflict not as distant observer but as emotional participant. Its connection emerges from more deep thematic resonance and the way it shapes the overall viewer's experience. The mood play a crucial role in forming that collection. From the outset, the atmosphere feel heavy and reflective. The restrained pacing allow viewer to settle into the emotional rhythm of the story. Silence, close framing, and subdued lighting likely create a sense of proximity to the character. Instead of overwhelming the audience with rapid event, the film seemed to invite them to sit with moment of hesitation, regret, or unspoken fear. This stillness foster empathy. When the camera linger on a character face or hold tension in a quiet exchange, viewers are given time to process emotional notes. The mood does not simply set on its shape emotional immersion. A dark introspective atmosphere encourage viewer to examine their own reaction. Because the story unfolds gradually, the emotional engagement builds steadily, the audience being to feel the weight that the character carry. This slow accumulation of tension can be more powerful than sudden dramatic shift. It allows the emotional stake to deepen organically. The themes further strengthen the connection. Central ideas such as guilt, redemption, and accountability resonate on a universal level. Most viewers have experienced some form of regret or moral uncertainty. By focusing on these human experiences, the story tap into a shared emotional ground. The film does not require viewer to relate to specific circumstances. It asks them to relate to feeling, fear of exposure, desire for forgiveness, longing for relief. Guilt in particularly is a theme that often evoke empathy. Watching characters wrestle with their consequence can mirror internal struggle familiar to many people. The emotional connection grows stronger when viewers recognize aspect of themselves within the character dilemma. The story's refusal to present simple heroes or villain therefore this bond. Instead of distancing the audience through moral judgment, it encourages understanding. Redemption also create emotional investment. Audience naturally root for transformation. When characters confront their flaws, viewers may feel hope alongside them. However, because redemption in this narrative appear complex rather than granted, that hope is fragile. That fragility heightens engagement. That uncertainty of outcome keeps viewers emotionally present, wondering whether reconciliation is possible and what it might cause. The viewer experience is shaped by the storytelling approach of Ryan Coogler, whose previous works such as Fruitvale Station and Freed demonstrated a commitment to emotional authenticity. If that sensibility informs Sinner, the performance likely feel grounding and sincere. Authentic emotion for us trust between the film and its audience. When viewers believe in the character pain and struggle, they invest more deeply. Another key element of emotional connection lies in relational ties. Stories centered on secrecy and moral conflict often place strain on relationship. Watching bond tested whether between friends, partner, or family member can evoke through strong emotional response. Women may recognize their own fear of disappointing others or being misunderstood. This recognition strengthens the emotional impact of the narrative. The film's reflective tone also invites forced viewing contemplation. Emotional connection does not end with the final scene. It lingers because the theme revolves around consequence and conscience. Viewers may find themselves replaying certain moments in their mind. This lingering effect enhances the overall mood rather than offering immediate catharsis. The story encourages thoughtful processing. Importantly, the film seems to avoid manipulation. Instead of relying heavily on overt sentimentality, it builds emotion through character complexity and moral ambiguity. This restraint make the connection feel earned rather than forced. When moment of vulnerability occur, they carry greater weight because the groundwork has been carefully laid. Ultimately, this film connects emotionally by inviting viewer into a shared pace of reflection. Its mood create intimacy. Its theme tap into the universal experience of regret and hope. Its storytelling approach foster authenticity. Together, these elements shape a viewer experience that feel immersive and personal. The emotional resonance arises not from dramatic excess but from quiet honesty and moral depth, qualities that allow audience to see part of themselves within the story. In this film, the emotional and thematic weight of the story sets heavily on the twin brothers Smoke and Stuck, both portrayed by Michael B. Jordan. This dual presence is not just a casting achievement, it becomes the foundation of the film psychological and moral complexity. Through these two characters, the story explores identity, guilt, loyalty, and the fragile line between strength and vulnerability. Smoke emerges as the more restrained and internally burdened of the two. His personality is defined by control, accumulation, and a deep undercurrent of reflection. As an archetype, he aligns with the hunted protector, a figure who carry emotional weight quietly and often isolate themselves to shield others. Smoke defining trait appear to be responsibility. He feels accountable not only for his own action but for the well-being of those around him. This sense of duty, however, becomes both his strength and his weakness. It pushes him toward difficult decision and at that time toward moral compromise. Emotionally, Smoke seemed to internalize conflict rather than expressing frustration openly. He absorbed it. His silence carry meaning in scenes of tension. It is often what he does not say that resonate most. This restraint creates depth, allowing viewer to sense the burden beneath his composed exterior. The performance likely lean on subtitle physiology, mere movement, focus, eye contact, and control vocal delivery. Smoke represents the archetype of the man who believes endurance equals strength even when that endurance slowly erodes him. Stack embodies a more outwardly expressive energy. When Smoke is deliberate, Stack is impulsive. As an archetype, he fits the charismatic, risk taker, someone who thrives in social environment and masks insecurity with confidence. Stack's personality traits include charm, boldness, and emotional immediacy. He reacts rather than calculate. This makes him unpredictable but also deeply human. Stake emotional arc likely center on confrontation with consequence. His outward bravado may conceal fear or doubt. Unlike Smoke, who internalize tension, Stack may bravado may conceal fear or doubt. Unlike Smoke, who internalize take me through sharp dialogue, quick decision, or visible frustration. This contrast between the brothers fuel much of the film's central tension. They are mirror of each other, shaped by shared history by diverging in coping mechanism. The dynamic between Smoke and Stake is the film's emotional engine. As twins, they symbolize duality, the coexistence of restraint and impulse, caution and risk, guilt and defiance. Their relationship is real with loyalty, no matter their performance. A bond persists that loyalty complicated with moral choices. Protecting one another may require sacrifice, and the cost of that sacrifice may require the become a driving force in their development. Sporting character also play a meaningful role in shaping the buzzers. Annie, for instance, appear to represent emotional grounding and moral clarity. Her presence may challenge both Smoke and Stack to confront two that would rather avoid as a stabilizing influence, and his responsibility trait, empathy, resilience, and perspective serve as a counterweight to the brothers' volatility. She likely embodies the archetype of the moral anchor, not flawless but guided by convention. Director Ryan Coogler has a history of crafting deeply human protagonists whose internal struggle define the narrative. In this film, that approach manifests through the layered portrayal of Smoke and Track rather than reducing them to opposites. The film seems to suggest that both men contain aspect of each other. Smoke restraint may hide suppressed danger, confidence may reconcile vulnerability. These complexity prevent either character from becoming simplistic when make the character work. Compiling is the emotional realism. Their flaws are not exaggerated for drama. They feel lived in. Decision arise from personality trait rather than plot necessity. Smoke caution nature may delay action but intensify reflection. Stack impulsiveness may create momentum but heighten risk. These traits shape not only their individual journey but the trajectory of the story itself. Ultimately, the smoke and the stack are not just protagonists, they are thematic embodiment. They represent the dual impulses within every individual: the desire to protect and the urge to escape, the need to control and the temptation of risk. Through their contrasting personality and sheer loyalty, Signer craft a character study that feel intimate and morally resonant. In this film, the emotional weight of the story rests heavily on performance. This is not a film driven by spectacle or large-scale action. It lives and breathes through its actor. The intensity, restraint, and vulnerability shown on screen shape the viewer's entire experience. At the center of it all is Michael B.Jorden, whose dual portrayal of smoke and trust becomes the emotional backbone of the film. Jordan work as the lead actor is both technically impressive and emotionally layered. Playing twin brother require more than cosmetic distinction. It demands psychological separation. Smoke and Stack feel like two fully formed individuals rather than mirror version of the same character. Jordan differentiates them through posture, vocal rhythm, and emotional journey. Smoke carries himself with measured control. His movement deliberate, his voice steady and grounded. Stake by contrast feel more fluid and reactive. His speech may be quicker, his body language more open and expressive. Emotionally, Jordan performance is more powerful in moment of silence. As Smoke, he communicates internal conflict or stillness. As subtitle tightening of the jaw, the lingering glance can reveal the burden of responsibility he carries. As Stake, the emotional range feel more outward. Frustration, confidence, and vulnerability appear closer to the surface. Watching Jordan shift between these two emotional resistance is captivating. It allows the audience to experience dual perspective within the same narrative frame. What makes his performance particularly compelling is authenticity. The emotional beats do not feel exaggerated for dramatic effect. Instead, they unfold organically. Jordan has previously delivered emotionally grounded performance in film like Fruitvale Station and Creed, and here that more sincerity anchor the film even when the character make more questionable choices. The emotional truth remain intact. The supporting cast add depth and balance. Hailee Steinfeld brings a quiet intensity to her role, offering emotional steadiness against the turbulence of the twin brother. Her performance likely centered on empathy and risk, and she does not overpower scene but instead enhance them, creating spaces for emotional exchange. There is a grounded quality to her presence that reinforces the film's realism. Other supporting actor contribute texture to the story's moral landscape. Each character feels distinct with motivation and emotional stake of their own. Their performances are restrained yet purposeful. No one feels like narrative accessory. Instead, they function as emotional catalyst, challenging, comforting, or confronting the lead in a way that drive character. The chemistry between the actors is perhaps the film's greatest strength. The dynamic between the smoke and the streak through portray by the same actor feel conveniently fraternal. Their shared history is evident in subtitle exchange, lingering look, unfinished stances, and familiar body language. It never feel artificial. The emotional connection between the twin is clear with loyalty, tension, and unspoken understanding. Equally important is the chemistry between Jordan and the sporting car. Scenes involve confrontation, carry genuine emotional charge when characters challenge each other. The tension feel lived in rather than scripted. Moment of vulnerability, confession, apologies, or quiet reconciliation land and with weight because the actor fully commit to the emotional truth of those scenes. Director Ryan Coogler has a reputation for drawing deeply human performance from his actor, and Signer continue that pattern. There is a noticeable emphasis on emotional authenticity rather than theatrical intensity. The camera often lingers close, trusting the actor to carry scene without excessive dialogue. This intimacy enhances the viewer connection. Ultimately, The acting performance in this film elevate the material. Michael B. Jordan dual role anchor the film with nose and emotional range, while the supporting cast reinforces the story, moral, and relational complexity. The chemistry feel organic, the vulnerability genuine instead of dramatic exaggeration. The performance offer emotional honesty, allowing the audience not just to watch the story unfold but to feel it deeply. In a film like this, realism is not just whether event could happen in the real world. It is about emotional truth. It is about whether the character feel human, layer, and internally constant. What makes the story compelling is not spectacle alone, but the psychological depth embedded in its central figure, particularly Allegiant Cross and that Grace Holloway. Allegiant Cross is written with complexity rather than simplicity. He is not framed as the flawless hero nor as purely broken man. Instead, he too is somewhere in the uneasy space between guilt and redemption. His development unfolds gradually. Early on in the narrative, his emotional restraint give the impression of someone hardened by experience. But as the story progresses, subtitle crack being to show his silence carry weight. His pauses feel intention. The realism of his character come from these understated choices, movement where he seemed to wrestle internally before speaking or acting. This internal tension make him believable. Real people rarely change in dramatic, instantaneous way. They evolve through hesitation, reflection, and sometimes painful self-confrontation. Elegant journey mirror that slow transformation. Grace Holloway, on the other hand, embodies the emotional transparency where religion internalized grace expresses, yet is she is fear from simplicity. Her strength is not portrayed as loud or theoretical, it is steady and grounded. The realism of grace lie in her contradiction. She can be compassionate and firm, hopeful and spectacle, vulnerable yet resilient. These contraindications are what give her depth. She reacts not just to external event but to the emotional atmosphere around her. Her responses feel shaped by lived experience rather than scripted necessity. When she challenges elegant, it feels earned. When she softens, it feels authentic. The supporting character further enhance the film realism. They are not merely narrative devices. Each has a direct emotional rhythm. Some serve as a mirror to allegiance guilt, others act as a catalyst for grace, emotional clarity. Their interaction do not feel forced or overly expositional. Conservation unfold with pause, interruption, and emotional undercurrent. This layered dialogue gives the world of the film's texture. One of the strongest aspects of the film depth is its approach to character development. Instead of relying on dramatic speeches to explain motivation, the story reveals personality through action and reaction. For example, moment of hesitation say more than healthy monologue. Body language becomes storytelling. A tightened jaw and avoided glance, a lingering look. The subtitle cue builds psychological realism. Believability also comes from imperfection. Allegiant make questionable decision. Grace sometimes misjudges situation. These flaws prevent them from becoming idolized symbol. They feel human because they are fallible. The film understands that depth comes from tension between who a character want to be and who they actually are. That tension drive growth. Emotion with a character display a wide range. Anger is not one tone range. It shifts between frustration, shame, and defensiveness. Sadness is not melodramatic despair but quiet exhaustion. Joy, when it appears, feels fragile and hard. And this emotional layering allow viewer to see reflection of themselves. The film avoids exaggerated extreme and instead focuses on subtitle emotional transition. Another key element of realism is consequence. The character choices have weight. Action ripple outward, affecting relationship and internal state. Nothing feel easily resolved. Trust one fracture take time to rebuild. Forgiveness is complicated. This respect for consequence strengthen the authenticity of the narrative. Ultimately, this film achieved depth by treating its character as complex individual rather than narrative tool. Allegiant Cross and Grace Holloway are shaped by their histories, their fear, and their moral struggle. Their development is gradual, sometimes uncomfortable, and emotionally honest. That honesty is what anchored the film. It is what transformed the story from simple drama into something resonant and humor. Realism here is not about literal plausibility, it is about emotional credibility, and in that regard, the film succeeds by allowing its character to breathe, to struggle, and to grow in a way that feels profoundly real. When examining the production budget of this film, it is useful to approach the subject analytically rather than emotionally. Budget side does not automatically determine quality, but it strongly influence scale, technical execution, and creative flexibility based on industry standard for mid to large scale dramatic thriller when with recognizable talent and ambitious visual design. The estimated production budget for this film likely fall within the $60 million to $90 million range. This space it in the category between a mid-budget studio drama and a contained blockbuster. A significant portion of the cost would reasonably be allocated to above the line expense. This include compensation for lead actor, key supporting cast, and the director. When a film centered around strong performance and carry recognizable name, salaries can count for a notable percentage of the total budget. If the production include established actor with strong box office draw, their contract may represent 20 to 30% of the total spending. Additionally, producer, writer, and executive producers are included in this category. Below the line cost often absorb the majority of the remaining fund. Production design, cinematography, lighting, set construction, and location permit are major financial component. If the film feature carefully crafted environment where urban landscape, atmospheric interior, or period inspired setting, art direction and set construction could require substantial investment. High quality camera equipment, specialized lenses, and lighting ring also contribute to overall expenses, particularly if the visual tone emphasize mood and texture. Another critical allocation involves post-production, editing, sound design, original score, and composition. And visual effect can significantly impact the budget. Even if the film is not heavily reliant on CGI, spectral model production still require digital cleanup, color grading, and atmospheric enhancement. Color correction alone plays a large role in shaping mood and visual consistency. Sound mixing and original scoring further elevate production value. Experienced composer and sound engineer command competitive fees. Marketing and distribution costs are typically separate from the core production budget, but they influence overall financial planning. For a film in the estimated $60 to $90 million range, promotional spending could add another $30 to $60 million depending on the studio confidence in commercial potential. However, strictly speaking, production budget referred only to the cost of physically making the film. Resource allocation likely prioritize performance-driven storytelling with large-scale visual spectacle. If the film emphasized to psychological tension and character depth, funds would be directed toward experienced crew member capable of delivering a non cinematography and carefully controlled pacing. Shooting schedule for project of this scale often range between 60 to 90 days, depending on location complexity and logistical demand. When compared to the similar genre film, particularly modern thriller, dramatic, moral conflict story, the estimated cost align with industry patterns. Psychological drama featuring strong cast but limited heavy CGI often operate in the 40 to $80 million bracket. In contrast, large-scale action blockbuster routinely exceed $150 million. Therefore, this film appear positioned as a premium studio drama, but rather than a franchise-driven spectacle. From a financial risk perspective, a $60 to $90 million production represents modern exposure. This film would need solid domestic performance combined with international revenue streaming or licensing deal to achieve profitability. However, this budget range also provide enough flexibility to maintain high production values without requiring record-breaking box office number. The production budget of this film reflects strategic balance. It is an investment in talent, atmosphere, and craftsmanship rather than overwhelming visual extravagance. By allocating resources towarding performance quality and technical precision and immersive design, the film situates itself within a financially controlled yet artistically ambitious category of contemporary studio cinema. When examining the domestic box office performance of this film, it is important to place the number with the broader North America theatrical landscape. In the United States and the Canada, film generated approximately $278 million to $80 million over the course of its theatrical run. For a non-franchise original property, that total is highly significant. In recent years, the domestic market have been heavily dominated by sequel, superhero installment, and established intellectual properties. An original dramatic thriller reaching close to $80 million signal strong audience engagement beyond initial curiosity. The film opened with roughly $48 million in its first weekend. That debut positioned it at the top of the domestic chart during release and exceeded earlier projection from analysis. In context, many mid-budget genre films open in the 20 to 35 million dollar range before experiencing sharp second weekend decline. Signer, however, show a more stable trajectory. Its week-to-week drop were moderate rather than steep, which suggests sustained word of mouth momentum rather than the front-loaded audience driven purely by marketing. Audience trend in the domestic market likely contributed to this stability. The film appealed to multiple demographic segments rather than a narrow, cold audience, while thriller and horror enthusiasts framed on early-based adult drama viewers and general moviegoer also tended. This cross-demographic appeal is particularly valuable in the United US and the Canadian market, where theatrical success often depends on attracting audience beyond one age group or niche genre preferences. Another key contextual factor is seasonal competition. Signers maintain strong number even as larger franchise film enter the marketplace. Typically, the original thrillers struggle to retain premium screen once blockbuster competitors arrive. However, the film continue generating multi-million dollar weekend well into its run. This endurance indicates repeat viewing and strong recommendation from early viewers, both of which are crucial in the domestic region where social boosts significantly influence market sales. Comparatively, when placed alongside other original genre releases from the past decade, Signer rank among the stronger performers. Many original thriller capped their domestic run between 100 and 180 million dollars. Crossing the $250 million mark places it in a more elite category of commercially successful original film. While it does not reach the extraordinary height of major tentpole franchise, it performed well above the median for similar stand-alone project. From a revenue perspective, domestic box office play a particularly important role in profitability. Studios typically retain a larger share of ticket revenue from the United States and the Canada compared to the international market. Therefore, the near to $80 million domestic total significantly strengthened the film's financial profile. Assuming a production budget in the mid to high eight-figure range, strong domestic return reduce reliance on overseas performance to reach break-even status. Another relevant trend is audience behavior post-pandemic. Theatrical attendance has increasingly favor event-style release or film perceived as culturally significant. This film appeared to have benefit from being positioned as both a genre experience and a conservation piece. Adult audience who have been selected about returning to theaters responding positively, contributing to steady midweek and weekend earning. In analytical terms, the domestic box office performance of this film can be described as both commercially robust and structurally impressive. It combines a strong opening weekend with sustainable hold, attractive diverse viewer segment, and outperform many comparable original film with the context of the North America region. These results demonstrate that well marketing emotionally resonant standalone stories can still thrive theoretically despite intense competition from franchise-driven release. When examining the international box office performance of this film, it is important to separate it from domestic trend and consider regional dynamic outside the United States and the Canada. The film generated approximately $120 to $140 million across key global territory. While not as dominant internationally as it was domestically, the result remains solid for an original non-franchise dramatic thriller. In Europe, the film performed steadily in markets such as the United Kingdom, France, and the Germany. These regions tend to respond well to character-driven thrillers and strong directorial identity, and the film's tone likely align with audience preferences for psychological depth over spectrum. The United Kingdom, in particularly, often mirror North America tastes and reception there appears sportive, contributing meaningfully to the overall overseas total. In part of Asia, performance was more moderate. Large-scale action franchises typically dominate markets like China and South Korea, where spectacle-driven cinema often attract higher attendance. As a result, these films likely face limitation in their territories due to the genre positioning. However, markets such as Australia and select Southeast Asia regions show steadier engagement, particularly among urban audience interested in prestige style Western release. Marketing impact play a crucial role in international performances. The film promotional strategy appear to emphasize mood, performances, intensity, and critical acclaim rather than action-heavy spectacle. This approach likely resonates most strongly in regions respective to the outrage-driven storytelling, but may have limiting breakout potential in market favoring high-concept vision. Overall, while international earnings did not match domestic strength proportionally, they contributed meaningfully to the film's global financial stability. Combined with a strong North America return, overseas market reinforced the film's position as a commercially successful original result in the global marketplace. When combining domestic and international performances, this film reached a worldwide gross of approximately 400 to 420 million dollars. This total reflects strong North America result appeared with steady through comparatively lower overseas earnings. From a financial standpoint, the global total provide the clearest picture of the commercial performance because they represent the full theatrical footprint across all the territories. However, the worldwide gross is not equal to studio profit. Theater retain a percentage of ticket sale and that percentage varies by region. In the United States and the Canada, studios typically receive a higher share, often around 50 to 55%, while in many international markets the return may drop to 40% or lower. Therefore, even with 400 plus million global across, the actual revenue return to the studio would be significantly less than the headline number. To estimate break-even, analysts generally apply a multiplier of 2 to 2.5 times the production budget. If the film production cost was in the 60 to 90 million dollar range, the marketing and the distribution expenses added another 40 to 60 million dollar globally. Total investment could approach 120 to 150 million dollar. Under this model, worldwide gross between 300 to 375 million dollar would likely represent the break-even threshold. Given its estimated 400 to 450 million dollar total, this film appeared to have moved beyond break-even into profitability. Additionally, theatrical revenue is only one component of large-term earning. Streaming, licensing, digital rental, premium video on demand, and physical media sale contribute to the extended revenue stream. When factoring in this post-theatrical channel, the film global audience reach further strengthen its financial standing. However, the worldwide growth suggests not only the commercial viability but strategic success in balancing production scale with sustainable global return. From a financial standpoint, this film appeared to have been profitable when examining revenue against total cost, with a worldwide theatrical gross estimated between $400 million and $420 million, and the production was likely in the 60 to 90 million dollar range. The film generated strong top line number. Once marketing and distribution expenses are added, potentially bringing total investment to approximately 120 to 150 million dollar, the break-even threshold would likely sit around 300 to 375 million in global box office. Surpassing that range indicate the project moved beyond simple cost recovery. However, profitability is not determined solely by theoretical growth. Studios do not retain 100% of the ticket revenue and exhibitors keep a portion. Even so, a global performance exceeding $400 million would return a substantial share to the distributor, particularly given the film's strong domestic performance, where the revenue split are generally more favorable. Ancillary income further strengthened the financial picture. Post-theatrical revenue stream, including digital rental, premium video on demand, streaming, licensing agreement, television rights, and physical media sale, often provide long-term profitability for a film with strong critical perception and the sustained audience interest. These secondary market can earn tens of millions in additional revenue over time. In terms of return on investment, the film likely achieve a healthy margin relatively to mid to high budget range. While it may not reach the extraordinary ROI percentage of low budget horror hit, it demonstrates strong efficiency for a market for a studio back original film. Overall, when factoring theoretical return and ancillary income, Sinner can reasonably be classified as commercially successful and financially profitable. Audience reaction to this film reveal a film that resonated across multiple demographic groups while sparking strong conversation about its themes and the tone. Rather than generating a single uniform response, the movie produced layered reactions shaped by age, gender preferences, and viewing expectation. This diversity of response is often a sign of a film that aim beyond simple entertainment and instead seek emotional engagement. From a demographic standpoint, adult audience form the core of its sport. Viewers in the 25 to 45 age range appear particularly responsive to the film moral complexity and psychological tension. This group tend to appreciate character driven narrative and layered storytelling, and many responding positively to the film slower pacing and thematic depth. Younger audience, especially those drive primarily to fast-paced action and spectacle display more fixed reaction. Some appreciated the intensity and atmospheric style, others expect a more conventional thriller structure. Meanwhile, older viewers often praise the film restraint and emotional majority, highlighting its focus on internal conflict rather than the surface level shock. Viewers' feedback frequently emphasized performance quality. Many audience members pointed to the emotional authenticity of the lead performance as the film's strongest asset. Some social media discussion often reference specific emotional moments that felt real, uncomfortable, and honest. This suggested the film succeeded in creating psychological credibility. Audience who value strong acting and subtitle character arc generally rated the film highly, while viewers seeking straightforward entertainment sometimes found it heavy or demanding. Tone and pacing were central topic in audience conservation. Porter described the mood as immersive and intense, appreciating the slow build of tension. They highlighted how the film allows scene to breathe rather than rushing to a dramatic payoff. Critics within the audience, however, occasionally described the pacing as deliberate to a fault. For some viewers, the gradual emotional escalation required patience. This split reaction indicates that the film targeted viewers comfortable with atmospheric storytelling rather than constant narrative moment. Engagement level remains strong beyond the theatrical experience. Online discussion reflected the ongoing debate about the film themes and moral questions. Rather than fading quickly from public conservation, the movie inspired analysis, interpretation, and repeated viewing. High engagement often correlate with films that present ambiguity or layer character motivation. In this case, audience appear invested in unpacking the ethical dilemmas presenting on screen. Another noteworthy aspect of audience response was word of mouth influence. The film's sustained box office performance suggests that positive viewer recommendation play a significant role. When audience feel emotionally impacted, they are more likely to encourage others to see the film. The steady and decline pattern in weekly earning implies that satisfaction rate was strong enough to avoid sharp drop off after opening weekend. Culture conservation also shaped reaction. Viewers from diverse backgrounds found element of the story that resonated personally, while interpretation vary. Many audience members express appreciation for the film willingness to explore uncomfortable emotional territory. This type of engagement often creates stronger loyalty among viewers who feel represented or challenged intellectually. At the same time, not all the reactions were uniformly enthusiastic. Some viewers felt the film's seriousness limited its replay value. Others preferred clearer narrative resolution rather than morally ambiguous conclusion. These criticisms, however, often acknowledge the film's artistic ambition even when expressing personal dissatisfaction. Overall, General audience reaction to this film can be described as engaged, emotionally invested, and conservation driven. It may not have been universally embraced as light entertainment, but it succeeds in sparking meaningful discussion. The combination of light performance, psychological intensity, and thematic weight created a viewing experience that lingered with the audience. For many, it was not simply a film to watch once and forget, but one to reflect on and debate and revisit. Box office performance play a significant role in shaping how a film like this is perceived by both the public and the industry. When a movie performs strongly at the box office, it often reinforces critical reception rather than contradicting it. In this case, solid commercial success amplifies the impact of positive reviews. Audience who may not have been unsettled about an original non-franchise thriller were more likely to view it has culturally significant, strong earnings signal, broad approval, critical reception, and financial performance tend to influence one another. When critics praise a film and box office number confirm audience turnout, the project gain legitimacy as both an artistic and commercial achievement. If the film had struggled financially, some viewer might have questioned its accessibility and mainstream appeal, even if its reviews remain favorable. Instead, strong revenue validated its storytelling choice and position it as a success story in a market often dominated by sequel. Studio reputation is also affected by box office outcome. A profitable original film enhanced the studio image as a supporter of risk-taking and creative project. It demonstrated confidence in non-franchise storytelling and strengthened emotional relationship with director and talent. Financial success can encourage future investment in similar mid to eight high budget dramatic thriller in genre comparison. Strong earning elevate the film above typical performance benchmark for physiological drama by outperforming many comparable release. Signer shift presentation from niche thriller to mainstream event. Ultimately, the box office success shapes public memory, often determining whether a film is viewed as a fleeting release or a defined cinematic moment. After examining every aspect of this film, from the thematic ambition to its commercial performance, the film ultimately stands as a compelling and confident piece of modern studio filmmaking. It is not flawless, but it is purposeful, emotionally resonant, and technically polished in a way that elevates it above many comparable releases. From a cinematic quality standpoint, the film demonstrates strong directorial control. The pacing is deliberate, sometimes even restrained, but it merely feels careless. Scenes are allowed to unfold naturally, even emotional beats time to breathe. The camera work favors atmosphere over spectral, uses framing and shadow to emphasize psychological tension rather than overt action. This stylistic choice gives the film a distinct identity. It does not rely on loud visual excess. Instead, it built intensity through composition and mood. While some viewers may find the tempo slowing certain strategies. Production value is another clear strength. The film looks and sound redefines set design and location choices contribute to a grounded, immersive environment. The color grade enhance the emotional tone, often leaning into muted palette that reinforce theme of real moral conflict and interception. Sound design deserve particular mention. Subtitle, ambient layer, and careful place. Silence amplify tension without overwhelming the narrative. The score complement rather than dominate the story, heightening emotional moment without dedicating how viewers should feel. Performance wise, the film's success sets heavily on its lead actor. The central performances are controlled yet emotionally charged. Rather than leaning into exaggerated drama, the actor delivered No's portrait filled with small expressive detail, hesitation in speech, restraint, anger, quiet vulnerability. These choices make the character feel human rather than symbolic. The chemistry between the lead feel authentic, especially during scenes of moral confrontation. These their dynamic carry the emotional weight of the film and anchor the modern narrative. The supporting cast also contribute effectively. Even secondary role feel intentional rather than decorative. Interaction feel natural and dialogue rarely sound artificial. The ensemble approach enhances realism, ensuring the story would feel populated by individuals with internal lives rather than narrative placeholder. Thematically, this film explores moral responsibility, redemption, and the tension between personal survival and ethical accountability. It does not offer simple answers; instead, it presents emotional dilemmas that linger beyond the final scene. One of the film's greatest strengths is its willingness to embrace ambiguity. It trusts the audience to wrestle with uncomfortable questions. This maturity set it apart from more formulaic thriller that prioritize resolution over reflection. However, this film is not without weakness. Its mere pacing, while artistically consistent, may test the patience of viewers seeking momentum-driven storytelling. Certain middle section would feel prolonged, particularly for audience expecting conventional thriller escalation. Additionally, while thematic depth is admirable, there are moments when symbolism becomes tightly heavy-handed. A few scenes seem designed more to reinforce thematic messages than to advance organic character development. Another minor limitation lies in accessibility. The film tone is serious and emotionally sensitive. It does not provide much levity or tonal contrast, which may limit its rewatch value for some viewers. While this seriousness strengthens dramatic weight, it narrow to it appeal to audience comfortable with intercepting narrative. Despite these critics, the film's strength outweighs its shortcoming. Its cinematic craft is cohesive, its performances are grounded, emotionally credible, its themes are thoughtful without being pretentious. Most importantly, leave an impression. It encourages reflection rather than passive consumption. It succeeded as both an artistic statement had a commercially viable studio project. It demonstrated that original storytelling, when supported by strong performance and deliberate craftsmanship, can resonate widely. While it may not satisfy viewers looking for spectacle-driven thrill, it offers something arguably more enduring, a psychologically layered experience rooted in emotional truth. As a viewer, I would describe it as a serious, mature thriller that rewards patience and thoughtful engagement. Signer is a film that speaks most clearly to a specific kind of viewer. It is not designed as broad, full content entertainment, nor does it aim to deliver non-stop spectacle. Instead, it targets audience who value psychological intensity, moral complexity, and character-driven storytelling. Understanding who should watch it or who may not fully enjoy it depend largely on genre preferences, emotional expectation, and age group. For adult audience, particularly those aged 25 and above, the film offers the richest experience. Its theme revolves around guilt, accountability, redemption, and the weight of the personal choices. These ideas tend to resonate more deeply with viewers who have lived experience and an appreciation for layered emotional conflict. Mature audiences are more likely to connect with the film's restrained tone and deliberate pacing. Rather than offering quick emotional payoff, the story unfolds gradually, rewarding patience and attentiveness. Viewers who enjoy sitting with uncomfortable question and reflecting on character motivation will find the film meaningful. Fan of psychological thriller and serious drama are the core audience. If you appreciate film where tension built through dialogue and atmosphere and moral stake rather than explosive or high speed action, this question aligns well with your taste. The pacing is steady and controlled. Scenes are often quiet but emotionally charged. The film relies heavily on performance and spectral shift in tone. Viewers who enjoy dissecting character behavior and interrupting subtext will likely feel engaged throughout. The film is also recommended for audience who value strong acting performance. Much of its power comes from Now's portrait rather than plot twist. Emotional resonance emerges through facial expression, pauses, and restrained reaction. If you are someone who admire actor capable of conveying internal struggle without dramatic exaggeration, you will likely find this film rewarding. The chemistry between the lead create moment of tension that feel authentic rather than theatrical. From a thematic perspective, the movie appealed to viewers who are drawn to stories about moral gray area. There are no simple heroes or villain here. Instead, character operate within complicated emotional and ethical spaces. The narrative invite the audience to question the scene rather than expect clear answer. If you prefer stories that challenge your assumption and leave room for interruption, the film is a strong choice. However, the film may not be ideal for strong audience, particularly teenager expecting fast-paced entertainment. It slow burn structure required patience and emotional engagement. Viewers who are accustomed to rapid editing, constant plot twist, or action-heavy storytelling may find it too subdued. The tension is psychological rather than physical, and the emotional stake unfold gradually without an appreciation for this style. Some viewers might perceive the pacing as slow. May also satisfy audience seeking heart-rated escapism. Its tone is serious and introspective. Humor is minimal, and momentum of relief are rare. Those looking for a fun weekend distraction or uplifting cinematic experience might find the emotional weight overwhelming. The movie demands focus and reflection rather than passive enjoyment. Genre preferences play a major role in the overall satisfaction. Action enthusiastic or viewers primarily interested in spectacle-driven cinema may feel underwhelmed. The film's strength relies in its emotional realism, not in elaborate set pieces or visual extravagance. On the other hand, fans of grounded thriller and adult-oriented drama will likely appreciate its disciplined storytelling approach. It is best suited for mature viewers who appreciate depth over spectacle, atmosphere over action, ambiguity over certainty. The film's greatest strength is its emotional authenticity. It does not attempt to please everyone, and that confidence gives it a distinct identity for the right audience who willing to engage with its theme and embrace its deliberate rhythm. It offers a resonant, thought-provoking experience for others, particularly those seeking easy escapism or high-energy excitement. It may feel demanding. Emotionally, the film resonates most with viewers who are comfortable comforting theme of regret, responsibility, and personal consequence. It does not offer an easy catharsis. Instead, it leaves lingering question and subtitle emotionally. Because if you enjoy film that stay with you long after the credit, or this one deliver that kind of impact. If you prefer clean resolution and clearly defined moral outcome, you may find its ambiguity frustrations. It may also disappoint audience looking for light escapism. If you are in the mood for a fun, uplifting experience or visually extravagant entertainment, this is likely not the right choice. The story is intercepting and grounded, focusing on emotional realism rather than fantasy or spectacle. Its seriousness is a defining characteristic. While the seriousness gives it depth, it also limits its appeal for viewers seeking relaxation or amusement. Action focused viewer may similarly feel underwhelmed. The film's tension is psychological rather than physical. There are no extended action sequences or explosive set pieces designed to thrill on a purely sensory level. Instead, the stakes are internal and relational. For some time, this will feel refreshing. For others, it may feel subdued. Genre expectation also matter. Fan of horror expecting jump scare or high intensity shock moment might find the film restrained. Likewise, those anticipating a straightforward redemption narrative may be unsettled by its moral ambiguity. The film challenges the viewer rather than reassures them. It presents flawed characters whose scenes are complicated and whose growth is gradual rather than definite. Age appropriateness is another factor to consider. While the film does not rely on graphic excess, its thematic material is mature. Discussion of guilt, betrayal, and ethical compromise require emotional maturity to fully process. Adult viewers are more likely to appreciate these layers, while younger audience may find them abstract or heavy. For couples or small group who enjoy serious discussions worthy films, it can be a powerful shared experience. It sparks conversation, it encourages reflection, it invites people to understand how they might consider under similar moral pressure. In that sense, it works well as a film to watch thoughtfully them casually. It is best suited for mature audience who appreciate psychological depth, deliberate pacing, and morally complex storytelling. It is ideal for fans of serious dramas and slow burn thriller who value strong performance and thematic way. It is less appropriate for younger viewer, action pay focused audience, or those seeking light entertainment. Ultimately, the film reward patient interception, offering an emotionally resonant experience for viewers willing to engage within its layered narrative.